All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Levinsky, owner and race director for Sasquatch Trail Running. And today is January 14th, 2026. And I'm joined by my friend Charlie Gadol here. I'm going to give him a nice introduction before we start getting into some questions that we have. So, Charlie is a true legend of the Hudson Valley trail scene by trade. He spent nearly 4 decades looking through the world through a clinical lens as an accomplished pathologist with degrees from Yale, UMDNJ, and Rutgers. Charlie is the visionary behind some of the most grueling races on the East Coast, including the legendary Manitou's Revenge Ultra, the Catskill Marathon. He has spent years showing runners exactly what the Beast Coast trails are made of. And beyond the race course, he's a dedicated scholar with a master's in writing and literature from Bennington and a tireless advocate for our public lands as a board member for the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference and Run Wild, Inc. So whether he's maintaining a remote section of the Long Path or designing a new fundraiser trail race, his fingerprints are all over the trails that we love. So welcome to the podcast and YouTube, Charlie.
Thanks. That's really nice of you to say all that.
Well, it's all true.
I'll have to try and remember that.
I'll send you a copy of it. We can put it up and frame it. So, Charlie, you recently I'm actually not sure on the exact date that you retired from a career in medicine, but you were in it for over 40 years, right?
No, it was a little less than that. I mean, 36 or 37, something like that. And I retired in 21.
21. Okay. I'm curious because I actually don't know this story. What made you get into that career in the first place?
Oh, I was interested in medicine and, interested in pathology, in, looking at slides and diagnosing diseases. And it also was a little more benign and more easygoing than some of the other clinical specialties where have to be available around the clock and not so much in pathology. So it worked for me.
Okay. And then where did you spend the majority of your career?
I was in New Jersey for the first 15 years, and then we moved up to upstate New York in 2007, and I kind of moved around at different hospitals. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm curious too about I think I mean I had read this in your bios years ago, but the master's in literature. What's the
Oh,
story?
yeah. Well, I was always interested in writing, and so uh, at some point, I went back to Rutgers and was taking one course at a time, and I decided to get a second bachelor's in English. And then, since I was interested in writing, I did a low residency MFA in Bennington, and yeah, so it's just concentrating on poetry, and that's kind of I just write on my own. I'm not getting much published, but it's still fun.
Yeah. What are you mostly? I know you said poetry, but what are you writing about?
Well, I do, obviously I'm kind of, since I'm a trail runner, I'm more interested in being on trails and nature and forests and mountains. And so I read a lot of that and tend to focus on that more than anything else. But I guess kind of varied interests.
Okay. Are we going to see you at a poetry slam anytime soon?
Probably not.
We might need a Sasquatch poetry slam night.
Oh,
Charlie, I would love to hear the story of how you got into the trail world that you've now spent many, 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 many years involved in. But how did you first get involved in trail running and hiking?
okay. Well, I was I didn't start as a hiker or trail runner, which is kind of different from how most people enter trail running. Usually they start as hikers and then start running on the trails, and then, hey, I can run these trails, and then I can run in races and so on. But it was kind of, I was started in cross country and track in high school, and kind of dropped out of it a little bit during my medical career while my kids were young, and then got back into road running marathons. And at some point, I guess I was I was running with the Raritan Valley Road Runners.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and they would do some trail runs now and then. And then I had glasses, conventional glasses, and they'd always bounce around. It was really hard. Everything was two-dimensional, and I tripped a lot. But I got contacts, and I could see a lot better. So
Mm.
was able to do trail running and enjoy it. And then pretty soon it was like, wow, this is a lot more fun than running around somebody's neighborhood. I just climbed a mountain and saw something, and that was the whole point of it. It was fun. So I guess about 2002 or so, 2004, I switched over to doing trail running. I did my first um, ultra in 2005, Belmonte 50K, and then I was kind of hooked. So I did. After that, I never went back to road running.
That's a common theme of folks we have on the podcast is like starting as a road runner, and then as soon as they try trail running, it's like there's no going back after that.
Yeah, no, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, totally. How many races do you think you've participated in over the years?
No idea. Like I said, I started in high school, so it's just, hundreds. I didn't even keep track. I'm not a record kind of person. I never do training logs. I
Yeah.
don't run anymore, but I never did training logs. I mean, I suppose not that I have anything against them, it just wasn't what I was interested in. I was more interested in just having fun and being out on the trails.
So that's like the opposite of Ken Posner. He's got very meticulous records.
Correct. That's why he's so successful.
He's a good dude. We've had him on the podcast as well. Charlie, I want to hear the origin story of how you got into race directing. Can you walk us through that?
Well, I was running with a bunch of guys from in the Catskills and in the Gunks area, and back in those days, we really didn't have many trail races in the New York, New Jersey area. There was, I think there might have been a Batona race.
Oh yeah.
There was one. There were races doing laps of Central Park, which is not really. That's not a trail run. There was something on Long Island where you had to cross the Jericho Turnpike in the middle.
Oh my goodness.
And there wasn't a whole lot else that I can recall. Everything was in Vermont or
Mm.
Virginia, so that's where I did my racing. But all the while we were talking about doing trail races up in the Catskills, and what about this and maybe that, and like I was like, great, that sounds great. And then I waited for other people to organize something, and it didn't happen. And I was like, wow, let's do 100-miler in the Catskills. And I read about some guy said, oh, we can do 100-miler, do this, and you're following this trail and that trail and climbing all these peaks. And I'm like, wow, that doesn't sound really like a real race. You got to start somewhere and end somewhere, and you got to have a viable route in between. And so
Mm.
with a 100-miler, and I got a permit, and I decided, I was just curious to see if anybody could actually do it. And I got some of my friends together, and they were all, interested in about doing an ultra of some kind. And we all met together a couple of times at restaurants, and they said, great, this is a wonderful idea, except that it's too hard. Could you make something that we can actually complete? So then I was like, well, I guess we could start, in Wyndham and end in Phoenicia. I I don't know if I was helping out at the local race, the turkey trot down there, but I found out about the parish hall, and finished.
Mhm.
The town seemed kind of like a cool place, so I decided whatever the distance is, we'll just end in Phoenicia, and that's how we came up with Manitou's Revenge.
So the 100, I mean, I know this, but I want to talk more for the podcast. The 100-mile route, what was that going to be originally?
Oh yeah, so that would have started in the same place and followed the long path, but when you hit the top of Plateau Mountain, you would continue on down to 214, Route 214 at Devil's Tombstone, and then you do a loop following the Devil's. Well, you could go in either direction, but I I think the idea was to go up the Devil's Path and then over to Hunter, down the Spruceton Road Trail, back across Diamond Notch Fall to Diamond Notch Falls, and up the Devil's Path the other way, and
Oh
then
my
down,
God.
and then all the way back up to Plateau to where you branched off, and then continue down to Phoenicia. But then you wouldn't stop in Phoenicia; you would do the Burroughs Range and end in Upper Cherrytown Road in, I guess is that Kerhonkson? It's where if you're going to Renewey Kill Falls, that's the big parking, except it was a tiny parking lot at the time. So you would have ended in the middle of nowhere, basically.
That really is still is kind of middle of nowhere, even though it's a larger parking lot. But that route is maniacal.
Yeah, well,
It's brutal.
yeah, that would have been fun. It
The
would have
fact
been about
that you were like
30,000 feet of gain, I think. It was
how
about
many feet gain?
30 something, and
Oh.
it would have been about 105 miles. So
Did anybody attempt it?
no,
No. Did you attempt it?
no, I was by that point. I think I was running with a knee brace.
Okay.
So it was really kind of out of the question. Um, I always did parts of it and until I couldn't. But like I said, no one really. What has been done is Jeffrey Adams did an out and back a few years back, so that
Yeah.
106 miles. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine the feeling of getting to Phoenicia and turning around.
yeah. He started in Phoenicia. He ran up, and then he ran the race.
Oh, so he went backwards on the course and then forwards. Okay.
And I believe the whole thing took him 34 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is nuts. And then we both know Ryan Thorpe. He just did the blue line to blue line last year, which is
okay.
We could call it 100 miles. I mean, it's not technically 100, but it's definitely runs like 100.
So he probably did mostly the same thing that I just told you was my plan for 100.
He basically, he except for that little funsy.
Oh yes, right,
Had,
the 15-mile loop or whatever.
Yeah, he stayed on the long path basically from the start up near Escarpment and then ended, like you said, the middle of nowhere. I was there at the end, and he had his phone out looking for the boundary line on God. And it was we were all cracking up because we're saying like this is the most anticlimactic but classic ultra finish where it's just like in the middle of the road, like, okay, here's the line of where the park ends.
Wow. Yeah, I know the Sundown Wild Forest that is not entirely inside the blue line, so I'm not quite sure where you would end.
Yeah, it was like maybe a mile and a half or so beyond the Cherrytown parking lot there. So he kind of stumbled out and then
somewhere near the falls, maybe.
On the road, so it was further
on the road. Okay.
Yeah. So he went past the falls and then out to the road, but it was classic. It was great.
Wow.
So
we're redoing that section actually. Tahawa's Trail Builders is rerouting that section, so you'll go from Lundy Road up to the falls. And it'll be a multi-use trail, so it'll be for bikes and hikers. So that should be interesting. You won't have the road that 12-mile road walk.
Yeah, that was a funky section. I remember that from the long path. That kind of weird house with the big fence.
Oh yeah, the one that you're going along for a long time. That's
yes.
Like, maybe there's some Russian mafia there or something, or who knows what.
Well,
I heard all kinds of stories.
It was weird. I remember that. I was very loopy at that point. Remember thinking it was an odd thing. I'm curious. Have you pitched does Alex know the story with the 100 miles? Is he going to think about putting it on?
No, I think he's just going to try and get through Manitou. There's lots of challenges. I think he's just going to try and get through a Manitou first before monkeying with it and changing the course.
Yeah. Well, that's a beast. I know we've had conversations about the permitting process alone. It's very, very involved, right, for Manitous?
Yeah, it is. I'm still working on that. I didn't want to torture him with that.
It's true. Charlie, I am curious if you would be able to list all of the trail races that you created and race directed over the years.
Oh gosh, well, Manitou and then Catskill, which we did a couple years later, and then and the Sterling Forest race, which you took over for 1 year.
I
And
know, RIP.
I only did that 3 years. And then of course Pocantico Hills, which is a very different sort of beast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did I involve? I guess I was, kind of peripherally involved in different things, but those are the ones that I came up with. There were others that I investigated and tried to put on, and then there were major obstacles that made me give up at some point.
Yeah, wasn't Storm King something over there with Black Rock?
Storm King. First, I tried to do Storm King and Black Rock, and then I had some real problems there, and then Black Rock, but nobody signed up, so I decided to kill it before we lost money and caused
Yeah,
problems. Any race where you have more volunteers than runners is probably not going to work well.
I know, and parking was the big issue with Sterling. That's what made it such a challenge.
It was, yeah. I was, my situation was a little different in that I was willing to lose, like, spend a lot on the buses and just charge a little more. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did make a tiny bit of money on it, but it was like, it was, the idea was to raise money for the trail conference. So with all of that effort,
Yeah,
was it worth it or not? So kind of like you have to think these things through.
totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, the logistics we did Sterling for, I think we did it for 2 years, and just
Okay.
the logistics of the bus alone, and just I just remember, like, it was such a stress point too, of like, is the bus going to come? Are all the runners going to get on? It was definitely it added another layer to that event, and the cost for sure. It was expensive with those buses.
Yeah, because they had to be on standby, because then they had
Mhm.
to make a couple trips to take people back to the parking. And yeah, I didn't park at the same place as you. I was outside the park and at the local school. And I also didn't have nearly as many runners as you, which is the other factor was like if I wasn't going to get more than 60 people for 2 races, it was, what am I doing?
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, I hear that, but
I mean,
that's
that's not okay. It's fine to have small races,
yeah,
but if as a fundraiser, it's not successful.
totally. Yeah, I get that. I mean, we've certainly had races at Sasquatch where tried it for a couple of years, and then it's like you said, that's the time and money. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense, to keep putting it on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Your time is valuable, and especially you're running a business, so it's a very different sort of thing. Whereas I'm
yeah,
retired and I'm not depending on. I don't make any money, so it's whatever I make is going to Run Wild or to the trail conference or the park, whatever.
totally. Yeah. Speaking of Run Wild, do you mind chatting a little bit about that and how that nonprofit came to life and your involvement with it?
Sure. Well, that was Ken and Todd who came up with that. I think they were doing the SRT race for a long time, and it was a for-profit event, and they weren't making money, and so they decided that that if they were going to be making anything, they should put it towards a good cause, land conservation, and whatever they made, if it just helped pay for some fees for land acquisition, that would be good. Um, and so around that same time, this was, I guess, about 5 or 6 years ago. Um, yeah, so Manitou. Um, when I started Manitou, it was kind of by myself with Mike Sudi, uh,
Hmm.
and so eventually we decided that we should have an LLC. So that was WTF Racing, and
Perfect.
yeah, it's like, what are you doing out here? This is what ETF am I doing out here? It's insane. Or there could be where's the finish line?
That's true.
Anyway, so we had that going for a while, and then Mike had various injuries and really didn't want to continue with that. So I still wanted the liability protection. So I decided I would join Ken's, bring all my races into his, into Run Wild, and that's basically how it evolved.
Mhm.
And then Cat and developed Fonstock, so that was our fifth race. Is the SRT Catskill, Pocantico Hills, Manitou, and Fonstock.
Mm-hmm. What I love about the Run Wild series is it's such a nice mix of races. Like you have the hardest of the hardest with Manitous, but then Pocantico Hills is such a different animal.
Yeah, it is. It's all carriage roads, so
Mm-hmm.
that's appealing for somebody who's kind of getting into running off road, or doesn't really want the whole challenge of the technical aspects of it, but wants to get out and enjoy a beautiful course,
Yeah,
and has the half marathon option. So road runners can enjoy it too. It's good for everybody.
lots of roadies.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had to adjust to that because there's different things. They want age group awards. Like in ultra and trail running, you really don't do that.
Right.
Um, and finisher medals. We always did something that you always got some sort of swag, but it wasn't like a medal. That
Yeah,
was a really different idea for me. So I found out right away that that's what they wanted.
totally. I was surprised at how well the coasters went over this year. I was expecting there to be some pushback on it.
Oh, that was cool. The first year, it's interesting, the funny story. The first year, I decided to do something we'd done at Manitou, which was the Menke maps. And the Menke map is like a cloth map, and it has
Oh yeah.
a course on it. And it's washable, so you can blow your nose in it, and wipe the blood off your knee, and then still figure out where you're going on the course, and then you take it home and wash it, and it's a souvenir. And it's like $5 or was. So I thought that would be a great thing. People would love that. Look at what they get, as swag. So that was 2021, and it was the year of the supply line crises. Remember that?
Yes. Oh yes.
The guy making the Mankey maps, he was in the UK. So he designed the Mankey map and he shipped it to China, sent it to China, and China was supposed to produce the maps and send them to me. But that didn't happen on time.
Oh
There were delays. They were stuck in some Chinese city that I hadn't heard of. Anyway, he sent me a bunch of paper maps, and I'm like,
my
"Well, you
goodness.
got all these paper maps. People are not going to be happy with that." So but
Oh
then I finally got all the maps. I got the discount because it was late, and then I had to mail them, which was an ordeal. It was just the marathon that time, so there were 100 runners or so, and then I hand delivered like a whole bunch to the people who lived in the Westchester area near.
mhm.
So I got to see where they lived, and so that was okay. But anyway, yeah. So then I got feedback that people were not happy with that. They wanted an actual medal.
Mhm.
Very different.
Yes, it is. And the roadies, I think, are a little bit more vocal. They tend to be a little bit more vocal with their opinions.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good. I'm excited to race direct next year. It was
Yeah,
fun.
thank you so much for taking that on. It's been so great, in terms of what it does for Run Wild and for the trail conference and the park.
Totally.
They take all the money and they put it towards the park, uses it specifically for the trails.
Hmm.
Trails are great, and they use that to fix the trails. They had a big event. Was it a hurricane or some kind of a storm which washed out a lot of the trails, and they had the money to fix that right away.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yes, good.
it's cool. Um, Charlie, I do want to talk about the long path because you are on the is the title Catskill Long Path Trail Chair, or what is the title exactly?
That's That's my official title, yeah.
Official title. Okay. Can you tell us about that and what that involves?
Okay, so basically, the way the way Andy Garrison divided up the Catskills when he took over the controlling how the maintenance was done in the Catskills, he basically took everything that was on the long path or branched off it, and that was on the east side of Route 214 and Route 47. So it's like the Burroughs Range, the Escarpment Trail, the Warner's Creek Stair Trail, the eastern half of the Devil's Path, all of that, and all the side trails. And that's one chair region, and everything else is called Catskills. That's very confusing. And that's all the other trails that are west of those roads. So it's Hunter Westkill, the Big Indian area, all the way down Dry Brook Ridge, down all the way down that way. So that's kind of what how we divided it. And Alan Davidson does the western part. And then so what I do is I'm like supposed to keep track of the maintainers and find new ones when people leave and keep them oriented. And then I basically, we have supervisors who have like different areas, and they're supposed to check to see the maintainers are doing their job, look for various problems that need fixing, and yeah, so I just kind of oversee that. And when I don't have supervisors, which is I'm missing two supervisors, so I do their work. I walk all the trails actually that we maintain in the Catskills to see where the blowdowns are and share that information with the state. And then we have chainsaw crews that go in and take care of the blowdowns. So it kind of keeps me busy, and I'm doing that more than any. I am even doing race directing, to be honest.
Yeah. How often are you out on the trails?
Four, 4 day, 4 to 5 days a week, I'd say. Especially in nicer. Not right now because it's ridiculous. All of the trails in the Catskills are like sheets of ice, and
Yeah.
and anyway, it doesn't make any sense because we're not going to send out chainsawyers right now. So and it's winter. So by the end of winter, whatever blowdowns that are there, well, there'll be 3 times as many by April. So mostly I'll start again in April.
And what's the process like when you find a down tree? Is it like you're sending a ping to like a pin to your maintainers, or how does that work?
Oh, no, what I do is I take a picture of it if it's, depending on the size. Like a maintainer should be able to take care of something that's like, 5 or 6 inches at least, and cut that, move it off the trail. Or a lot of things can just be moved off the trail by hand anyway. Um, and if it's bigger, I'll take a picture of the blowdown, usually with a size reference, and then I'll take my Avenza map and
Mm-hmm.
and just like locate the blue dot in the center with the GPS and take a screenshot of that. So then when I get back home, I look at what I've got, and I look at some uh, where it was basically, and say like there are 5 blowdowns up to 18 inches in diameter, and I put what trail it's on, and so I have a spreadsheet, and that's what I share with the other Sawyers and the and with the DEC, the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, which takes care of the. They're supposed to. It's complicated. They're supposed to take care of the blowdowns, but they don't always. So we get permits to do the chainsawing, and it depends on where it is, whether we do it or not. That's
Okay.
more information than you wanted, I'm sure.
Well, that's the info. That's the info we wanted. I know you've gone out with Andy, right, for some pretty big days.
Oh
With
yeah,
his,
yeah.
what?
Andy is tireless and always cheerful and
Yes.
enthusiastic, and he's an excellent sawyer. So he's definitely knows what he's doing. But he's had me out there for like 13 hours at a time. Sure.
His energy knows no end.
No,
That guy.
no, yeah.
Yeah. So I know we're gonna have some folks listen to this who they're either Manitou's alumni or they have aspirations to complete Manitou's. And for their sake, I would love, can you walk us through like the prep work for Manitou's in terms of, because I know that you're out on those trails, right? Before the race. You mind just, I just want people to have a scope of the amount of work that goes into that event in particular.
Well, since I'm taking care of the trails anyway, I'm walking them and trying to make sure they're clear and that the maintainers have done their work. And at least for Manitou, the good part about that is that the Region 4 operations crew does get out uh, between May 1st and June 15th, and they take care of most of the big blowdowns. But also,
Mhm.
we a lot of people who who've done Manitou have come out for a trail work day, and we clean up the trails. We'll go from Big Hollow Road to North South Lake and just clean it up a little bit. Um, and so we do all that. So basically, I do that starting in June. The beginning of June, we usually chainsaw the blowdowns on the Warner Creek Trail because that area needs extra attention usually.
Yeah.
And then I finished that all off about the week before the race, and then we go through the week before and flag the last 15 miles pretty intensively because that's where people are at night. And then the rest of the course, we just do turns and intersections and
Yeah.
occasional confidence flagging, and that goes on, during the week before. And then, that have to be done with that by the middle of the week or so.
And then you're awake for like 75 hours during the race.
Not quite that bad. If it was a 100-miler, I wouldn't be up that much, but it's more like 30 something, 30, whatever.
Oh my goodness.
But it's
Yes.
it's gotten better over the years. I get more help now. I've learned to get more help at the finish line and have people. The thing about the Manitous, we're required by our permit to take down all the flagging within 24 hours after the race, and the sweeps get a lot of it. But and Tommy and Bob always say we got all of it, but
Yeah.
actually at night you just can't see it all. So
Yeah.
they have deflaggers go through the next day and take it all down.
Totally. Yeah. You can never trust a sweeper who says they've got all the ribbons. I've learned that.
Yeah, you learn that the hard way, right? The
Yes.
first year they told me that,
Oh,
and then about a month later, I got a call from the forester who
oh
said,
yeah.
"You left all this flagging."
Oh, I know. That's a pain point. We actually at Sasquatch we started doing a second sweep. Like we have sweepers that go when the race is happening. They're behind the last runners, and then we do a sweep the next day because it just kept happening. And like you said, it's impossible, I think, to get all the ribbons in the first sweep. You
Right,
know?
right, especially at night.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we've had some upset individuals contact the parks when they find ribbons, and
Yes,
you
right.
know, which I understand. That's a part of what we want to do is leave the trails better than we found them.
hmm Yeah, I
So,
remember North Face when I would just run around in Harriman.
oh yeah,
A couple months later, I'd still find their ribbons up.
yes.
That was pretty impressive.
Well, Charlie, I've got one more question before we hit a couple rapid fire. Um, I'm just curious, like how you're feeling as you're transitioning into, or I guess Steph, you're still going to be very involved. I know that you. I mean, for me personally, you're helping a ton with Pocantico Hills. I know you're doing that with Manitous as well. But over the next few years, like how are you feeling with kind of the shift in role and I mean being in the trail scene for so long? I know you're not leaving it, but things are starting to shift a little bit. How are you feeling with all of it?
Oh, I'll still be there at Manitou and Catskill and Pocantico Hills and doing whatever you tell me I have to do. I'll be a volunteer, so I'll be there on race day. I'll see all my friends, and so I won't miss that. I miss not running. I had a knee replacement in 2021, and I can't run, and so I hike.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do miss not running. But also not running has meant that I'm not, you know, familiar with all of the runners anymore.
Yeah.
They're the ones who've done it every year, and I know them. But the newer runners, I really, it's always a surprise to see who's going to do well.
Totally. Yeah. Charlie, I'm curious, is there anything you could say, like, what you're most proud of accomplishing in your career over the years?
Absolutely. I think the best part of being a race director was that all the people who came to races found friends that they could run with, and then people that became their lifelong friends. And I saw this right from the first year. It was
Yeah.
really, it just was very, very meaningful and fulfilling. I'd have to say that was, yeah. I think the other thing too is, like, I remember sitting with a friend at the end of the escarpment, and she had this kind of a sketchy little line on her leg, and I was like, "What's that line that you have tattooed on your leg?" And she said, "Don't you know what that is? That's the Manitou profile."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So to me, that was like, wow, this really has made an impact on people. So
Mhm.
that it was very meaningful to me.
Definitely. I think that was something I was so struck by when I first volunteered at Manitou's a couple of years ago, was that there's such a the community is very evident as soon as you, like, I volunteered at Dutchers with Jody and his crew,
Yeah.
and
Right. I remember that.
it was a blast. We met up at, I don't know, 0 dark 30, and then you hike uphill to get to the aid station, and um, I love that about the race, and that, besides, like, the lore surrounding it of how hard it is, that was what really drew me to running last
Mhm.
year. It was just the phenomenal community around Manitou's.
Yeah, I'm so glad you got to do it. That was very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sticking around till the end, because I was one of the last finishers there out there.
Yeah, I come back. I'm sure you have a much better time next time.
I don't think it can get worse. So I think I think it'll be better next time around.
I
Yeah,
think familiarity with the course makes it easier.
totally.
People's times come down 2 hours each year that they do it. So not at some point they stop improving, but yes,
It can only go up, I think.
yeah, it can only get better.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I've got 5 rapid fire questions to throw at you. So the first one is, what is your favorite Catskill high peak?
Oh, I think it's really three peaks. I like the Blackhead Range, Thomas Cole, Black Dome, and Blackhead. I especially like going there in the spring because there's like wildflowers up on
Mm.
kind of a mountain meadow. It's fun, yeah, and there's some nice views off there. And I especially like the way they rerouted the trail up Blackhead coming from the west.
Yeah, Blackhead is a beast,
Yeah,
especially in
it's
Manitou.
easier coming from the west, actually, from the Lockwood Gap. And
Yeah,
they routed it so instead of going straight up, you curve around and you get some nice sweeping views as you do that. Yeah.
love that. How about, what is your favorite spot in the Catskills for a post run or hike meal?
Oh, well, you know, that's an interesting question, right? Because a post-run meal, right?
Yeah,
Or post-work day.
yeah,
Yeah, I like the Phoenicia Diner. I've often ended up there. Um, and I'd say but this old standby is Brios. I mean, I always end up there.
yes, classic. You can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong with brios at any time of the day.
Mhm. Right, exactly.
Yeah. Poles or no poles?
Oh, for Manitou, I recommend poles.
Yeah.
I used to run with poles. I'm a one poler because I had a bad experience with two poles when I was hiking, where I was trying to cross the stream. I put the whole poles down and they slid behind me, and I just went, did a face plant. So after that, I
Oh,
was like, well, maybe just one pole. But in winter, I use 2 poles, so whatever.
Yeah. I'm a fan of poles as well. Definitely during Manitous. That I actually snapped a pole during Manitous.
Oh, wow.
And Jennifer Rankin was there volunteering, and she's like, "I've got another set of poles," and I was so thankful because I was going into the Devil's Path section,
Yeah.
snapping a pole up on Catskill.
Yeah, you know what? There was a guy, Jan Welford, who was the first guy from up front who was using poles, and he's
Mhm.
an emo guy. So he was using them on the Devil's Path to push himself to vault off, things going downhill, not so much uphill. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
and that actually, I'm sure that gave him somewhat of an advantage.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Going down the notches. All right, here's the next question, Charlie. What is one word you would use to describe the long path?
Gnarly.
Charlie. Totally.
I think also very diverse because
Mhm.
absolutely you go from New York City to the Palisades, with families picnicking. I think when I hiked it was July 4th that I went through the Palisades. So basically people experience the outdoors very differently in that area.
Yes.
And then Harriman is such a unique experience. And then you go into the Gunks, which is very different, very
Mhm.
beautiful. The Catskills, which is the gnarly part. And
Yes.
then I was going the opposite direction as you, obviously. But then getting into Schoharie County in the north
Yeah.
Catskills and having no idea what that was going to be like and how beautiful and quiet and
Mhm.
not seeing anybody there all day. That was
Yeah.
just, uh,
Yeah. The northern section is really, it's so different than the rest of the trail. Especially like when you're like going through what feels like people's backyards in the farm territory,
yeah,
cutting through farmland.
sure, you
Yeah,
are.
totally. And then through Gilboa was wild as well. Okay, final question for you, Charlie. Do you have a favorite finish line story from any of the races that you've directed over the years?
Oh, well, we had some fun at, obviously there's a big scene there at the end of Manitou and Catskill, everybody hanging out if the weather's nice, and occasionally bears crossing the road, going into the campground to pick through the garbage. Yeah, so there was one time the third place man was finishing, right? And he's running along, and okay, so there's a car pulling up right up to the finish line. I'm about to run out and chase the car away, saying, "Hey, you're getting in the way." And the next thing is a cub runs across the road,
Oh my goodness.
and I'm like, "Oh, there's going to be a mom right behind, right?" And so then the guy runs through and crosses the line, and then the mom crosses. So that was kind of like we were like, "Oh my god!" And this is all happening about 10 yards away from us.
Oh,
So that was
oh my word. That's memorable.
yeah,
Definitely. Awesome. Well, Charlie, thanks so much for your time. This was super fun to chat and hear some stories from you.
yeah, as always.
Always.
Yep. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for taking over Pocantico Hills. I really appreciate it. I
Oh
know
my
I know it'll be great.
I'm very excited about it. What's exciting too is the park is so great to work with. Like I was really really struck by that, and the Friends of Rockefeller.
Yeah,
They
great.
just really care. And you don't always find that. Sometimes there could be some barriers working with park systems, but they seem really nice to work with.
They're completely invested in it, right? And they're just excited as we are.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Maybe we'll bring the rain for next year because Sasquatch's known for that, but a little spicy weather. But cool. Thanks again, Charlie. This was awesome. And thank you all for tuning in. If you're listening on the podcast or watching the replay on YouTube, we appreciate you. And as always, if you want to learn more about Sasquatch, you can visit sasquatchtrailrunning.com. Run Wild is runwildhv.org. And then the trail conference is nynjtc.org. And, Google is your friend if you can't remember that. Just type that in. So that is it. Until we see you again, keep it squatchy.